Welcome to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show with me, Jess Tomlinson. Interviews to inspire a new movement of leaders and entrepreneurs. The ones who lead with vulnerability and authenticity, stand in visibility, allowing themselves to truly be seen, are fierce and playful and sexy. Choose business as a spiritual practice. Seek collaboration versus competition. Know giving back is not an option. It's a necessity. They do it their way. They radiate. They rise. Now, let's rise together. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show. I am Jess Tomlinson, and I'm really excited to have a special guest today who we're going to do more of like a value feels really like sterile, so I'm going to change that. We're going to do a deep dive conversation in the realm of visibility around summits. I'm so excited. So Terra Christoff is here with me, and she is just a beautiful soul. We met at a women's event in San Francisco and instantly felt like, yes, I need to know you. You're amazing. And she is an expert at leading summits, and I started like about 10 years ago with my first summit, and I'm such a fan, and I haven't done one in a while, so I'm so excited for what she's going to share with us today, really about how to do it in the feminine way, which is what I love about you, Terra. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Jess. Yeah, as soon as I met you, I was like, I love this woman, and I'm so happy to be collaborating with you. I mean, this really does feel like the feminine way of doing business, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun, right? And like we were just mentioning before we hit record, sometimes it's not easy. And yet, like, really just allowing and being able to bring however we are into our work. I know you're going through some grief right now, and that's so hard. And thank you for sharing that with me. And I've been through lots of grief, and just learning this dance of like, how do we continue to be visible no matter what life is throwing at us, and actually use that as a gift. That's something that I'm so passionate about. So thank you.
Totally. And just one thing about that is I feel like, just a friend of mine passed yesterday, and the learning inside of that too for me is around how we don't know how much time we have on this earth, and how it is so important that we're living our purpose, that we're spending our time in doing things that have heart and have meaning for us. So there is also the side of it really firing me up about, being an entrepreneur. I have a life where I do have space to grieve when I need to. And I have a lot of control over my schedule, which is amazing. And I feel really, really, really blessed to be able to work with, purpose-fueled entrepreneurial women who are changing the world. So I am very connected right now to what a privilege and a gift that is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because sometimes I can get trapped in the like, you know, story of, which is true for me, at least right now, of hardest time of my life when my best friend passed and then my second friend passed 4 months later. And during that time, I really didn't know how to work. I didn't know how to make money. And I had been in business for so long already. Like I had invested, you know, multiple tens of thousands of dollars, and couldn't keep up with my credit card bills. And so it just, I was in that place of like, I'm so grateful that I don't have a job to go to, and this is really fucking hard and sucks, because
Yes.
I was in survival mode at the same time. And I know not everybody is like that in business, but it just so happened I was in that place
Mhm.
in my business where I wasn't far enough ahead. And so I also just want to honor both sides for
Mhm.
anybody
Yep.
might be going through a tough time, and know that you will get out of it. And I am
Absolutely.
proof of that, like,
Mhm.
and much stronger out the other side.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can definitely relate to your challenges. I feel like I tried so many different marketing things in my business, but I didn't really get the traction I wanted until I started growing my business through summits. And so that was the game changer, for me, where I actually had an audience that was much bigger than previously. Before that, it was a lot of hustling, speaking engagements. Sometimes it'd be great, sometimes not, but there are always a lot of energy and work. So when I discovered this model, and I'm like, ooh, it's feminine, it's collaborative. I love showcasing what other women in the world are up to. And I found a way of doing it that was more of a simplified model that was really congruent with my values. And that's what's lighting me up right now.
Yay. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to learn more because, like I said, it's been a long time since I've done a summit, and I'll share a little bit more, with everybody about my experience, my few experiences, and then we'll learn, of course, from all of your wisdom as somebody who's doing online summits now. But first, I just want you to answer the one question that I do ask all of my guests, which is, how are you currently? I'm so curious about this because we were just talking about grief, and maybe this is your answer or maybe not, but how are you currently leaning into your visibility edges in life and business? It doesn't have to be just business.
Yeah. So right now I am, as we speak, launching an online challenge, and that is new for me. It is called Amplify Your Influence 5-day activation, and it's a lot about supporting women with visibility and messaging, and also sharing the strategy that I use to grow my email list to 8,000 women. And so that is stretching me because, I thought, oh, I'll just do a little, and then I did a training with Gina Gabellini on it. And it's like, launching is a thing. It requires a lot of energy, a lot of behind the scenes work. And I'm right now, it's like day one of launch, so I'm practicing visibility right now. And, it has looked different. I did share something more vulnerably on Facebook today about what's going on, because it felt really inauthentic for me to just be like, okay, here's my, my wonderful activation. It's like, no, there's other things going on. So I'm seeing I really get to create a both and for myself. I'm stretching into greater visibility, and I'm also carving out time for acknowledging the grief and tending to a little more rest than I, usually need, and more self-care. So for me, it's really about putting myself out there and filling my cup at the same time, because that is something I've learned, that whenever I have a visibility project, is often what I call them, something where I'm putting myself in the world. Usually it's some kind of marketing related thing. I have to actually increase my self-care, because it sort of calms my nervous system a bit, because let's face it, it's vulnerable to put yourself out there. All of my clients struggle with this. This is so normal. There's all these fears that come up. Am I going to be judged? Is nobody going to come to the party that I'm creating? What if people have annoying, mean things to say about it on Facebook? Who am I to be a leader in this way? So it's like all of that comes up. I think I've just learned the importance of taking action even when those fears are there, just really being more in service to my vision than my fears. So right now, this challenge is my stretch. And I'm in it right now. So it's a great question.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And we're total visibility sisters. Obviously, that's what I support women around. And all of those things are like, they don't go away either. They just get a little easier, and you figure out ways to nurture yourself, like you're saying. And I love that you're saying that. I always tell myself and my clients, like, number one, when you are doing something that feels really vulnerable and putting yourself out there, don't look at what everybody else is doing during that time, because you're just going to be in, self-judgment more than likely, even if you think that it's like inspirational or it's going to like feed you. Like, just protect yourself in that way if you're feeling, a little tender. And then, yes, dedicate way more time to your self-care than you think you quote unquote should be. Like, just give yourself permission to do that so that you can bring that energy that is required to put yourself out in the world. Like you're saying, it
Totally.
makes so much energy.
And to give yourself, I mean, what I keep coming back to is because I'm like a recovering perfectionist, you know, to realize that it's okay to do it imperfectly.
Oh
What
yeah.
really matters is, you know, your energy around it, and just your willingness to put yourself out there. Like, it's going to land with the people who it's meant to land with, and just trusting that it's all about taking imperfect action, letting go of the perfectionism. Because like what I've learned about launches is like, just expect there's going to be breakdowns, there's going to be challenges. You know, the website was looking wonky, I had to, I was like up late trying to figure out, is there a solution? And then, you know, finally, the third time's a charm. The third person I reached out to is like, I have a solution. And that's a lot of what being an entrepreneur is about, is just being willing to put your feet in the fire at times, and be visible, and to find solutions, because it's like, expect that the challenges are going to come up. I mean, finally with summits, it's like my fourth summit, I figured out a formula where it was very easeful for me. But you know, in general, anytime you're doing something new that involves visibility, it's going to be a stretch. So just be so compassionate with yourself as you're putting yourself out there. And remember, stay connected to your big why and your purpose, because really that's what it's about. It's about being of service to your soul aligned clients, the people who you are meant to serve. That's who this message is for. So just really focusing on like, what do those people need to hear from me? How do they, you know, because it's a lot about them being seen, is how I see true marketing. It's like, you're seeing people, you're using the words that they use, and you're solving a problem that's really alive for them, that's keeping them up in the middle of the night. And as we all know, as entrepreneurs, a big problem is, how do we actually grow an audience? Because you could create the website and the beautiful marketing campaigns, but if you don't have people in your community who are potentially going to buy your services or products, then it's super challenging. And I see people do it all the time, and it seems like it would make sense, but it's like, if you really want to grow, I do believe now that you really need to grow your audience, and to do it in a way that's really aligned for you. And I do believe that the summit model, and we could talk about the shadow side in this interview too, but I do believe that it's a feminine, collaborative model. And if it's done well, you are creating something, you're creating an event that's like really focused on a theme that you're passionate about, and it's changing the world because you have a message. So you get to create this whole event around something you're super passionate about, interviewing all these thought leaders, and just learning so much, you know, in the process as well. So it's fun.
Yeah, I love that. Even hearing you talk about the summit is reminding me, when I first started my business, like I loved that time, because I was in like such a state where I was a professional marketing professional. I worked for a media company, a magazine company at the time in Las Vegas. And so like I knew a lot about marketing, and I went to school for public relations, and yet I was ignorant enough in the online marketing world where like I didn't know too much. And so I just literally like didn't get caught up in the like, what will work? And I really just did what felt fun and lit up to me. And I was still in my corporate job at the time while I was building my business. And I hosted a summit because of that, because I love collaboration, and I love bringing women together and shining the light on people. And my movement at the time was called the Me Time movement, like Me Time self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I wish I would have kept that URL. Damn.
Love it.
And this was before anybody was really talking about self-care. I tend to be a little bit ahead of my time, actually a lot ahead of my time, and then get really angry when everybody else is catching up.
I relate.
Even my message now around like self-expression, I'm like, I've been talking about this for years, y'all, and now everybody's coming out of the closet. So I have to just like let that go, right? But anyway, so back then I did the Me Time Movement Summit, where I brought women together, and it just, I think I didn't do any paid, you know, advertising, and I'm pretty sure I got like 300 or 400 people on my list from that. And it felt so fun and felt like such a huge reward for not only the women who participated in the summit, but the ones who I was interviewing. Like, they got clients from it, and you know, they were like appreciating me for spreading this message, and it just felt like so warm and juicy. So
I'd love for you to talk about, first of all, like what drew you to Summit and how was your first Summit? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so my first summit was in 2012. It was kind of before summits were a big thing. I had seen Sage Levine did one, Claire Zammit, there was like, she had a feminine power summit. Ryan Eliason, I saw him, I'd worked with him, I'd seen him massively grow his business through summits. And I was like, and I participated in these summits, and I was like, this is so much fun. And as a young girl, like, I just loved interviewing. Like, even when I was a kid, I like, with my friends, created little like radio stations and I'd like interview people. So like, there's something about, and I have also a journalist background as well. So there's just something about going deep and asking probing questions and doing it in a way where I feel like people are getting value. They're also getting, you know, practical tips that are going to grow their business and elevate their business. So it was actually, that one was not on business though. I will share what that was about. But I love just the whole model of it. And so at that point, I had married myself. And I don't talk about this that much. It was fun. So I had all these big shifts in my life. So I basically committed to self-love, self-care, and honoring my soul's calling. And I created these vows. And I saw my life start to really transform in some powerful, powerful ways. And then I thought, God, this would be a really interesting summit theme. This was not, but this time nobody was really talking about marrying yourself. There was a trend, you know, where people did, but nobody really was. So I thought, I'm going to do
I've
a
done
summit.
it too.
Yeah, totally. It's powerful. And so I did a summit on this theme. It was like the Marry Yourself Summit. And it was like all about self-love, self-care, honoring your soul's calling. I had like 13 speakers, many New York Times bestselling authors. Claire Zammit actually was one of the speakers. I mean, I don't know. I got like all these really, really big names. I'm not even quite sure, you know, how, well, like, looking back, I have some thoughts about how it happened. But I think that they were really—
Yeah, like how did that happen? That's amazing for your first one. Wow.
Yeah, Marcy Shimoff was one of my speakers. She wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Angeles
Oh,
Arian, who's no longer, she was one. I mean, I had all these really big name speakers. I think it was because when I reached out to them, I was so clear on like my passion for this and the impact that I wanted it to have for
yeah.
women around the globe who are really struggling with all of these issues. And I think they saw the opportunity for them too, that this would be a really great platform for them to share their message. And I was all about creating win-wins. I mean, this was pre-Zoom. So it was like an instant
Oh yeah.
teleseminar.
Zoom
And
is way new, people. If you like, there was no Zoom.
totally.
We had
So
Skype back then.
yeah. And I did instant teleseminar, and I even did them live on Fridays. I had Wednesday, Friday, and it just went really well. Like I had 3,500 people who signed up for that first summit. At that point, there wasn't a lot of noise, so you know, I think that was part of why it was such a powerful list build. I did it with a friend. We filled a retreat through it with women all around the globe. And it was just a super, super fun experience. And I went on to have a lot of collaborations with some of the, you know, people who were on my summit. I had Dane here from Access Conscious. I was into Access Consciousness at the time. And like, yeah, so like, I just went on to like stay connected to these people and, you know, build relationships. Cause really that's all business is. It's about building powerful relationships with people and creating win-wins for them. So I really did create win-wins for my speakers. They were like, whoa, I don't ever get this kind of reception. You know, they offered free gifts and they had like so many opt-ins and everything. So I just saw like, this is super fun and I loved it. And it was challenging because I didn't quite understand how the tech worked. The way I went about it, let's just say I learned a lot from it. Like at the end too, even though I was really happy with the outcome, I still remember like I created a little tent in my bedroom because I was just like, I just need to decompress from this experience. That was a big project.
Yeah.
And so, there were things that I would have done differently and I do differently now around technology and around simplifying things. And I've kind of dialed in the process to streamline it a bit because
What are some of those things that you do differently?
yeah, well, one is I recommend outsourcing it to the tech part, to a team that is very established with virtual summits. So with my upcoming training, it's like I'm partnering with them because they know how to do summits. I've known a lot of people who had breakdowns where the VA couldn't really do summit tasks, didn't understand how it worked, had to, like left midstream. So I think that was an important part of setting myself up for success, in the future, because that was one of the biggest learning curves I had. The other one is just around preparing it. So now it's like when I do a summit, everything is ready to roll. So when the summit's happening, I'm just kind of like enjoying the emails, or if I, often create a Facebook group. So it's like that. But at the time I was writing the copy like the night before and like trying to find, can you send out the email the link to the interviews? And it was just kind of stressful because of the lack of planning. And I did that one very, very quickly too. So now I did it in less than 90 days. Now I recommend 90 days. Some people, a little longer if you want to have some spaciousness with it. But
90 days to prepare?
Like 90 days for the whole process to, launch in 90 days.
Okay. I'm like, that sounds stressful to me, but I do things really, really fast. And I've learned that not everybody's like that. So everybody.
Yeah. And in my trainings, people are different. Like I have women who are like, I'm just slower tempo. And I totally honor that. They're like, I'm going to take 5 months with this. And then I've had some people who are like, I'm all over it. They have ways they want to integrate the summit trainings in their business. So they got really creative around that. So they're just like, hey, I'm going to do this. And they had some, people that they wanted to reach out to anyhow, who they knew would say yes.
Right. It's the reaching out. And that's where I always fall short. So I want to talk about this. First, I want to highlight your enthusiasm. I love you. And I think this is really important for people to hear. I want to point out that when you reached out, and this was your first summit, were you newish to business or brand new to business at the time?
I was newish.
Okay.
I'd done more. I'd never done anything like this online before. So that was definitely
Okay, cool. And these people who are very well established, it sounds like, said yes to you. And what it sounds like is that your enthusiasm, your conviction was enough. And I really want people to hear this, because I think sometimes when we get afraid to really take that bigger leap to reach out to somebody who maybe we feel like is quote unquote ahead of us or better than us, or whatever story we're telling ourselves, right? Or actually just much more in the public eye than us, that we need to be at their same, level of business or whatever, right? Or that we have to like show them all this proof that it's going to work. Like, I really think this is important for people to hear, that we forget as women entrepreneurs that passion is freaking powerful. Like when it's contagious, right? Like even as you guys are probably listening to Terra, you're just like, oh my God, this is so exciting, because she's just so passionate about what she does. And I really feel like we've lost this. Like, this is like,
I know, the whole online marketing thing, it's become so slick, and it's like, it can take your soul out of the picture. And that is so sad, and I've had moments too where I've fallen into, like, even yesterday, I'm like, what the frick is going on with my website? And my husband's like, not a big deal. And I'm like, no, this is a big deal, because most people see it on their phones and this doesn't look very good. And it's like, and then I had to just redirect myself and kind of come back to, this is my passion. There's a solution to every challenge that comes up. And I think too, with the reach out, when you asked about what worked, was I was very authentic with people. Like I told them exactly why I wanted them to be on the summit. Like, I really deeply acknowledged who they are and the contribution that I thought they would make. And I did have some people say that led my, invitation email to stand out, because they're like, I get tons of these, but I just felt like I wanted to say yes to yours. And I think it was the passion and the acknowledging them, and something about the alignment piece. Like, I think a lot of people are doing summits in this way where they're just like, I'm gonna have 30 people and it's gonna be 30 days and there's no theme, and there's not that sense of alignment. And like with my last summit, it was very much like I intuitively felt into, each person who I was really called to invite. And, I did things quite differently in that last, it was called Women on Purpose for the Planet. And it was coming from a place more of wanting to, impact earth-loving entrepreneurs and really support them in growing their business. It was something completely different. It was a little smaller than my other summits, but what I saw was it's not always about size. Like, it was 1,000 people who were really aligned with a message that was in my heart. It's like I changed my name, spelling my name from T-A-R-R-A to T-E-R-R-A to really honor my connection to the earth. Terra means terra firma, means land.
You did that before your summit?
I mean, I did that 3 years ago, and it's just been like coming forward more and more in my life. Like, how do I honor the earth more? And then, I was just on a hike one day on Mount Tamalpais where I live, and it was like, that's going to be your next summit. That's what it's going to be all about. And there's a woman, who I've interviewed several times on my summits. Her name is Claire Dubois. She's from an organization called Tree Sisters, and she's like my favorite person because she's like the most passionate entrepreneur I think I've ever met. And she's committed to like reforesting the tropics and like planting I don't know what their stats are now, but it used to be like 1 million trees a month. And so it's like, okay, I want to get her involved. And then I thought I want Julia Butterfly. And I was like, I don't know how that's going to happen because she's really in a internal period right now because she's had some health challenges. But I reached out to her. I was really clear on why I wanted her message there, and really partnered with her around what to share because she was going through some really deep stuff. And she's just like, if we do this, I'm going to cry probably, there's a lot going on. And I was like, I'm going to go wherever you want to go. If there's anything, you don't want to talk about, I'm not going to. If there's anything you do, it's going to happen. She's like, no, just everything. Just bring it,
collaboration. This is really,
I
love that you're sharing this because, and I think that's another piece too that I would love for you to talk about. What would you say to any women out there that are like, oh, well, I don't know how to collaborate, or like, do you know what I'm getting at? Like, there's this, I was just talking to a sister on the phone the other day when I was taking a walk, and I was expressing my frustration around people using the hashtag women supporting women. And yet I know them personally, and they are very resistant to openly just share other women's work. And they're very scared of the competition, and they'll make comments such as, well, that's what I do, like to people that they know, like, oh, they're doing that. Well, that's what I do. And I think it's my natural Aquarius nature that like, I just don't understand. Like, I'm like, there's so much for everyone and everybody can rise together. And thank you, sister, for doing that, because we need more people to do this work. Even me and you, like we both are in areas of visibility, right? So will you speak to this piece around summits and collaboration, and anybody who might be just afraid of that collaborative versus competition piece?
Yeah. So this is really up for me. I have a client who's doing her first summit, and she keeps saying to me, but why would I invite this person? They're a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and she came from a background where that let's face it, in this culture, that's how a lot of people see things. And it kind of breaks my heart. And I really had to get into it with her. It's like, not at all. Like, they are, my friend George Cow calls them niche partners. I think of people more like that. I think of it as like, how can we create win-win? Because the truth is, at the end of the day, there's only one you. There's only, your energy. So you could have, if it's about business, you could bring on, 20 coaches, and it's not competition. In fact, that, they're probably going to be more aligned in terms of the audience that way. And I just see it like, everybody is going to resonate with their people, and I'm there to create win-win. Like, I want people to feel like, as a result of participating in my summit, they're getting visible, they're growing their business. If I can send clients to people who I don't think I'm a fit for, it's like, I'm so happy to do that. And I feel like we've lost a lot of that, the generosity factor, in in this space of online business. And it's really sad. And it's so true. It's like, I'm all about elevating women. And I believe when one woman wins, we all win. And I think that the energy also really shifts when we come from that place. When our come from is generosity, how do we help? What if there was no competition? I really don't believe in that whole model. There might be people doing similar,
I don't either.
but there's one of you, there's one of me, and you're special. You have your gifts, your frequency, your energy, and people feel that. And that's a wonderful thing. So I do feel like there's a new paradigm emerging where it's all about women authentically supporting women. And then we have like what my coach Johanna Lindenbaum talks about is like sister wounds. Like we all have these wounds too with women, you know, maybe times that we really did support somebody and then they didn't acknowledge it, or you know, times just where we were wounded around this. So I do feel like it's a really important cultural thing to name that there is some wounding there that I think can get in the way of our natural instincts towards collaboration. Because I really believe that women are like authentically wired to be collaborators. When you look at hunters and gatherers, you know, women are often the gatherers. We're gathering people and elevating and pooling resources. And again, that's why I really think the summit model is so awesome, because you have, you know, your people, they're sharing it with their email list. So it definitely is, in my experience, the quickest way to build an email list. Like you mentioned speaking, and part of why I think summits is I mean, I think speaking is great. It's about 30% of my revenue and I enjoy speaking. But what I saw for myself was when you do the like numbers, if let's say every quarter you find a speaking engagement, 30 people come to it, 15 of them love you, they signed up on your email list. If you did that for 3 years, you would have 360 names on your email list. Like you're saying, Jess, you did one summit and you had more, you know, more names than that in like whatever, however many months that was, 4 months, 5 months, you know? So it's like, and they tend to be people who your energy is like what, you know, there's something about you that they like. It's not like a cold Facebook ad, which I feel like is just a waste of a lot. I don't know. It's not my favorite method of marketing unless you have a lot of money to kind of throw at Facebook ads, because it can take a while for it to even convert. So it's like, I don't know, to me, summits are kind of a no-brainer. And then the shadow side of the industry, I don't know, should we talk about that?
I know. My next question that I was going to ask. So first, I just want to like recap that. It sounds like, and I'm really, you know, you and I were talking about how I'm feeling like I want to do another summit. It's been a long time. And so I'm really feeling so connected to what you're saying of like this opportunity to really step into our own healing around, first of all, giving with an open heart, shining the light on other people, and being the one to really facilitate this conversation, whatever is living in your heart around your purpose, right? Just knowing that when more voices are behind that message, like, wow, the impact that you can make when it's more than just you. Like, this is really where I believe one person can do a lot of change, but multiple people, holy shit, like, wow. So I just really wanted to point that out and acknowledge what I'm feeling around what you're saying, that it's like this opportunity for women to really step into healing those feminine wounds of gathering people together for a bigger purpose.
Totally. And with a summit, you get to be a thought leader, you know, whatever that message is that's in your heart, you get to share it. And I know like sometimes thought leader can feel heavy, and I don't see it that way at all. Like, I mean, just to ground it, like I think about a client of mine who had a successful in-person business. She was a nutrition coach and she worked a lot with midlife women. And she's like, I want to take this more online. And she had a very challenging midlife experience. Her husband left her for a younger woman. She had all of this land that she was now stewarding. It was 2008 when like a lot of entrepreneurs' businesses were taking a big hit, and her hormones were also doing crazy things at the time. And like she really walked through that experience and has some powerful teachings to share for midlife women around how to see it as an incredible rite of passage and redefine your whole perception of aging and to feel really good in your body. And she created a summit on that, and she nearly tripled her email list. She got her message out in the world, and it was so, and she also raised money for, I mean, while talk about life happening during her summit, she was in the campfires. So basically she was evacuated from her home for a period of time. Her home still remains, but it was, you know, there was a big question mark very close to her. The house is burned down. I mean, 100 people died. So, you know, she did push the timeline back on the summit, but still did the summit. She had Alice Walker on her summit, Pulitzer Prize winning, you know, the color purple.
Yeah.
You know, to hear Alice talking about aging and, you know, I mean, it's such an opportunity to bring a message into the world that is redefining the culture. And I felt like people really plugged into hers because of her passion and just how aligned it was. And I don't know, for me, it's like nothing's more exciting than like, how do we, you know, share a message that is going to like change culture? And I feel like with a summit, you have an opportunity to do that. And I do believe every single person has a world-changing message in their heart. And sometimes we feel like, who am I? But when I dig deeper, it's like everybody does, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be in life, but I'm sure that there's something in your heart that you're really passionate about that could be the theme for an event. And you don't need to call it a summit. Like I had a woman who did the first world online ecotherapy conference. So she calls it a conference because people in our industry get that. You could call it an interview series. I mean, there's so many ways you
An
can
experience. I've done that before. Experience.
Totally. I love that. Yeah, it just needs to be like what's aligned for you and your people, because there is a lot of, I know people sometimes hear summit and they're like, oh God.
I know. Yeah, can we talk? Okay, so I'm not sure what you were going to talk about with the dark side because I'm so curious now. But the question that I had, maybe relating to that, was what would you say to people who are like, well, online summits are dead?
Yeah, I think that that's something that people are definitely saying. I would say that the form that a lot of people do them in, where it's just like invite as many speakers as possible who you think have a good email list and have 30 days of 30 speakers, I think that that model is dying for sure. I feel like if you're offering a high value, more of like a training with, you know, a dozen or so speakers on a theme, and those speakers are deeply aligned with that theme, and that your interview content is providing value, and you're not totally overwhelming people, you know, I think that that model is going to stay for sure. So I don't think it's obsolete. You know, I just think there's a new paradigm emerging, and I want to lead, you know, people who want to do summits as world-changing thought leader events. I feel like that's not dying. That's not dying at all based on the numbers I'm seeing. People are signing up for that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Because I do hear a lot of that, you know, talk, and I think we need to remember that there's always a fresh way to do something that has done before, and that as I see as a society, as a planet, really being forced to shift into more integrity when we're doing business. And so things that may have quote unquote worked, like, ooh, you gotta, you know, make it work, that were maybe a little bit manipulative or whatever in the online marketing space, are really being ripped away, and people are more aware and they can feel that. And so again, I just think that this summit opportunity is really an invitation for us to step even more into what feels not only in integrity for online marketing, but what feels in integrity for me, what is right for me in the way that I want to do this, which I know you're really big on as well.
Totally. And you get to do it your own way. Like I had a client who's more, I don't know, like if I call her rebel, but you know, more that spirit. And she was just like, she was in a deep process around exploring what loneliness means. And she created a summit called Transforming Loneliness. And she was bringing together thought leaders who had some really important voices to share on that theme. She was a therapist, and you know, she saw the model, and it is, you know, a lot of times it is 48 hours for the internet. She just said, I don't give a fuck about that. She's like, they can watch this forever. I just want this content to be out in the, you know, her primary motivation was to be a thought leader, to have these, and for her to really explore, you know, an inner journey that she was in that wound up being like an incredibly transformational journey. The summit changed the whole course of how she's living her life. Like, she's wanting to be in community more because she realized that that's part of the transforming loneliness, connecting to the earth, you know. So it's like the summit, it goes beyond just being like a list building thing. I mean, it can become, it's a game changer. You're going to learn so much about yourself, and also on a business level, you learn so much about marketing and how to share your message in a way that really lands, that I feel like it's worth doing just for the kind of up leveling, the PhD growth that, you know, happens when you create an event like this. You have to step into your leadership in a new way. And Laura was very much like, I know that it's, you know, because it is often best just to have a simple, what converts best is often a simple video. But she was like, I want a gorgeous website, you know, and it looks so beautiful. And she's, you know, she had 1,000 people sign up for her event. They were like really aligned with the message. Many of them signed up even after the event ended. So it's just like, you just don't know, you know. And I feel like even if you get like, you know, 400 people, that's awesome, because that is going to take often a few years of speaking to get to that point. So if you can do it quickly and create people who resonate with you, and then start to develop a relationship with those people. I mean, I had a summit where I enrolled 12 new clients. That was very much my intention for the summit. And it's like, that was half my business for the year. So I'm not saying that's a result that's common. I did have some, you know, savviness as an entrepreneur, and it wasn't, you know, it's like my third summit. So, you know, all that, but I've seen people create some pretty amazing results through that. Like Anastasia, she launched a midlife detox program for women, and, you know, filled it. And it was a very, very successful program. And it was really her stepping into her leadership as a, you know, a leader in the industry for women who are having health challenges in midlife and want to do everything differently.
Beautiful. So I know you have a program for this. So obviously there's a way more robust, you know, system where people can get support if they want to do their own summit. But can I ask you just some like specific questions? Of course you can say like, oh no, that's like too detailed, but okay, awesome. So there's a few things that are top of my mind. So I mean, I think I know the answer, but I want to hear your answer to this. Like, what do you feel like people need, or do they need to be at like a certain level in their business, or what are the things required to say I'm ready for a summit?
That's a good question. So I mean, I think summits can work at whatever phase, but the phase that I tend to like to work with people for summits is that they have a business. You know, it might not be where they want it to be, but they have a sense of, you know, what their mission is. It could be some refining there. And they're ready to step into their next level, whatever that means to them. And that they're willing to put in some time and energy for a project that's going to really grow their business and grow them as entrepreneurs in some really big ways. I'm not a fan of, I don't want people who are just like, I just want to build my list. I just want to do this thing. Because I've seen that doesn't work. And when people aren't even really aligned with it, it's like, forget it, you know. But the people who are really passionate about what it's like, they get some people that are really awesome on their list. So I think you have to have that willingness to kind of prioritize it for like a 90-day period.
Because like you said, it does take energy. You know, it takes energy, it takes planning, it takes a lot of stepping up, and it can also be fun because Terra's super fun.
It can be really fun. And that's the other thing is, like, in my program, people, they have accountability partners, and so they're not alone in this, you know, because that's the thing that sucks when people try to do summits by themselves. I just think it's hard because there's a lot of subtle strategy that you're not going to get unless you're working with somebody who knows summits and what is actually working. And there's also a support factor because it's scary as a woman to be visible and put this event into the world. So it does take support. And also, you know, it's awesome just to be able to post in a Facebook group, hey, how is this title and tagline resonating for people? You know, better to get that feedback now than I've seen people just go for it and put it out in the world, and it's like not quite quite landing.
Yeah.
They hadn't really done a process to see, is this landing with people?
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. Whew. I still scratch my head like, how did I do a summit? I didn't even have a coach at the time, I don't think. Like, but
It's
I
probably
wish
that
I would have.
passion that you were talking about.
Totally. It was the passion, right? It was like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure if I had like, a group, I probably would have. The one thing that I think could have just completely blown up my first summit was having the support around poking me and lifting me up and encouraging me to reach out to some of the bigger names. Cause that's
Yeah.
where I tend to be like, I'm not good enough. Why would they want to be part of this? And like, I love gathering women. I'm not afraid to reach out to people that I feel like are like at similar levels to me. But that I think is like something that would be so supportive to be in that
Totally.
community of women that are just like, yes, you can do it. What's the worst that could happen? They say no. What's the best that could happen? They say yes. And you're like, holy shit, oh my God.
Totally. Yeah. I have a woman right now who is like, she studied with Mama Gina and has some personal connections there. And I was like, are you inviting Mama Gina to your summit? She's like, and she like, it's like, no, you're inviting Mama Gina to your summit. She's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it. But I could see how having that nudge, was like leading her to follow through on reaching out to somebody who's an industry leader, who she really respected and admired.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that push really helps. And same with my person with Alice Walker. I was like, okay, you have a connection here. You've done body work for her. I think it's worth an ask. And she was like, it was not easy for her to, but she did, and she got a yes. So it's true. And it's like, so what if you get no's? It's not a big deal. No's not going to
right.
If you wind up even with just one influencer on your summit, it can be a big game changer, because there's often a domino effect where everybody's like, whoa, I want to be on the summit with Alice Walker or whatever. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, good. Cool. So people that have a business, are clear about their purpose, then and have the energy that they want to put behind dedicating 90 days to really making this happen, it sounds like. Okay, my next question is, it's around that technical piece of, how do you recommend structuring the summit around the release of like the interviews? Is there like a timeline for people to be able to watch interviews where they like go away for the replay? Like, how do you recommend all of that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I recommend outsourcing all the technology. People often think I'm like a tech savvy person, and I'm not at all a tech savvy person. I just know what needs to happen to make the summit work. To be honest, I think it depends a little bit on people's situation. Like, I now sell my summits. Like, I have an opportunity for an upgrade, just like $47, so people can buy it. So if you do that,
actually do that, I'm always confused, because for me, I'm like, why would I buy this? Like, I don't know. And it might just be like a personal thing. So like, what type of people buy? Like, people that just do the summit?
Here's what is really interesting. The people who are really your strongest future clients are the ones that buy it. I've seen it time and time again.
Really?
So the VIP upgrade, it's not really just about like, I actually have like I always paid back what it cost me to create a summit. But what I've seen is more important is those are the qualified leads. Those are people who are raising their hand saying, I'm interested in what you have to offer, and I'm a busy woman. I'm not gonna be able to do all these interviews. I'm into it though. Again and again. Like, those are the people, when I look at the list of the VIP upgrade, those are the ones who become my clients.
Yeah. So are they just the interviews, or there are other bonuses, right? Like,
often if somebody wants to fill their coaching practice, I would recommend having, some kind of a connection call, don't call it that, some kind of an enrollment conversation, like grow your soul purpose business. And then, they connect with me and so that could be part of it. If there's bonuses you want to add to it, maybe you don't need to overdo it, but like, I think that your time could be one. What I did last time that was kind of interesting, because my practice was fairly full. I still had a few spots, but I did a workshop that it was like an activation where we took everything from the summit, and it was like a 2-hour workshop where we looked at what's your 90-day kind of action plan.
I love that.
I really didn't want it to be just like, oh, that was fun. I listened to some interviews. I wanted to bring people together in community, really hear what's in their heart and vision, and like flesh it out. So that actually worked really well. That was kind of my experiment. Like you said, it's all about keeping it fresh, and that's what I felt called to do.
And
so
that was available for purchase?
That was part of the VIP upgrade. Yeah. So if they did the VIP upgrade, they got that as well.
Fun. What a way to bring people together in community too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
So people do buy them.
Answering these.
Yeah. I mean, usually it's like a couple thousand, like 2,000 to 3,000 is usually what I wind up with in sales.
Cool. Okay. So fascinating. Thank you for popping my limiting belief bubbles. And it's only because sometimes I'm like, well, I don't buy them. So like
I don't buy them. Right? I don't buy them either.
Yeah. So we have to remind ourselves, I think this is a good lesson, right? That like, oftentimes just because we don't do something doesn't mean that other people won't find value in that. And so that's why we need people like Terra to be telling us that this, it is absolutely possible to use that in your summit model.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next question is around, so is that your main offer, is like how do you recommend that people lead people in? It sounds like there's lots of different ways, of course, and then people need to figure out what works for them. But for leading into clients, after your summit, is the like VIP upgrade the main thing that you recommend?
No, there's another strategy I teach
that
a lot of people don't do, and I think it's actually really important.
Okay.
You need to get interviewed. And your offer is that, Thrive in Your Soul Purpose session with you. You can make it an application, so you could say I offer it to 10 people or whatever, however you want to do it. If you're someone's just getting started, I would probably say try to do as many as possible, because honestly, the art of the enrollment conversation, like that's going to be more directly connected to how much money you're making than anything, if you can really learn how to rock these conversations, and it's a great way to practice. So that is the other strategy that I teach. So those people who really connect with you, they're going to want to, go deeper and have a conversation. And that's where you can share your programs.
Yeah. Okay. And so that interview would be like the last one.
I often do it that way. I've seen people not do it that way too. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know why. I think just intuitively, I have done it that way. I often have like my biggest name people kind of in the beginning, because I want to really get like that. So yeah, I often do it that way. I often by the end too, it's the people who are the real diehards who are really into it.
Yeah.
But I've had some people experiment with doing it earlier on and still got, pretty good results there. I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to both. If you do it early on too, you're going to probably have more people. There will be some naturally, people are just like, this isn't my thing, and they drop off or whatever. And that's a good thing, because you want the people on your list who are like aligned with you. And again, it doesn't have to be big. Like even if you have like 400 or 500 people, like that can be a game changer in your business. Like imagine speaking in front of 500 people, like it's a big deal.
Awesome. Cool. Those are like the main burning questions I had, just as far as kind of like, the structure. Is there anything that you would like to share just in general?
Just the shadow side. I just wanted to circle back to that. So what is important there is, I think summits have gotten a really bad name, partially because, the whole, this is like list building, and people, all these people are just reaching out to famous people. There's nothing personal or connecting. But the other thing is I feel like diversity and inclusion is a focus of mine, and a lot of these is a value of mine. And a lot of these summits, it's, if you look at them, it's like often like all white women. And I had a client who is an African American woman who said, I love this summit idea, I want to be Oprah. and it's like, why are they always just like white women? She's like, this model, it just doesn't feel very diverse and inclusive. And I was like, okay, we got to do things differently in this industry. And now I have people, like Nisha Moodley, she was on my summit. She's like, I do it only if there's like 30%, diversity in the panel. So, I mean, something I'm looking at more and more, and that I've been sharing with people who've done my training last time. And some of them, I mean, had like 30 or 40% even. Some even, one person even higher, so it's like, it's just something to be aware of. And I think it's something in the collective right now that we're looking at, even at speaking events. I know there was recently an event in my area where the woman got a lot of slack because every single keynote speaker was a white woman. So it's not just in the summit space, but it definitely is something that is very present in the summit space. And I see summits as an opportunity for transforming culture. So I see it as a way too that we can transform culture by just, being mindful with diversity and inclusive and reaching out to different voices and different socioeconomic backgrounds. Like that, to me, that's something that's important. It's not everybody's jam, but I think it's something that we need to be aware of if we're doing summits.
Yeah, I'm so with you. I was at a transformational leader event this past year, and it was really great. There was a whole conversation around this and how like even the typical hero's journey of like, you hear so often these stories of entrepreneurs that are like, and then I took like, a whole year off to just go find myself, and like I traveled, and which is awesome, yay for them. And the conversation was that does not resonate with most people who are not white and very privileged. Like it's just not an option. There's, it's just a whole different situation. And I thought that was so fascinating. And now I'm super aware, and it made so much sense to me. I'm like, yeah. So we need to be sharing different voices and different stories and different perspectives of, real life. And the reality is that most people's experience is not that experience on the planet, right? And there's a very small percentage. And this is something that I'm super passionate as well. One of my movements actually was called White Girl Diaries, and it was about my life growing up as the white girl with mostly other people of different nationalities were all my friends, and have a lot of wounding around that whole movement because something happened actually with a close friend of mine that it got healed as much as it could, but I'm still very passionate around, like I wrote a book, White Girl Diaries, it's like still sitting there. Yeah,
that's amazing, Jess. Wow, you're inspiring.
Well, thank you. It feels like one of those things that I don't know if it will ever go back out into the public in this lifetime, but maybe. I feel like when maybe I'm like a wise crone, like I'll be like, all right, I'm ready to like leave this stamp on the world and really just share my experience and perspective of like wanting to use my privilege for a greater good of like,
totally.
let me share, my experience of telling the stories of some of the people that maybe don't have the resources to be able to tell these stories in the way that I might be able to. So thank you for bringing that to this conversation and to the women that you support through creating these summits. I feel like this is so huge. I mean, I don't feel like, I know this is huge. So thank you.
Yeah, that's the opportunity with the summit too. You get to change the world and change culture. And I think a question that you just inspired that is actually part of my challenge coming up is like, what do you want to be known for? Because I think that's the message you want to share for the world. That's the theme of, potentially the theme of your summit. And I love what you shared. I have a feeling that's going to be coming back for you.
Yeah, we'll see. I know right now it's just all self-expression, is self-expression is a strategy. That's my whole purpose right now, is really helping women be fully self-expressed. But yeah, there's still this like bubbling of like, okay, Jess, this is over here. This is something. So
yeah, it's like, of course, we're multi-passionate women, and different things are like the energy gets the attention for different periods of time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Terra, for this conversation. Oh my gosh. I know it's going to be so helpful for everyone watching. And for those of you who want to do a summit and want support with this, Terra, what would their next steps be?
Well, I have a webinar coming up, and I'll share the link with you where you can dive deep and learn more about how you could, double your email list and really get your message out in the world through more of the simplified feminine summit model that I teach, which is different than traditional summits. I have a training that's coming up in September, and it's going to be walking you through 90 days of handholding so you can create your summit. So I would definitely recommend that we connect. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to support you. If you're wondering, is this the right thing for my business? Happy to connect with you there. And I'm Terra at terrachristoff.com. It's TERRA. And then my last name is CHRISTOFF.com. And you can email me. I'd love to connect with you.
Beautiful. Yeah. And you guys can email me as well. And you can reach out to either of us on social media. We're available to get you the next step to do this. And then, of course, Terra's interview is over at jessicatomlinson.com/show-24. This is episode 24. And so you can find the link to directly, get on that webinar and receive further training. Yeah, I really feel like this is big. This is so good for women who are just feeling that burning desire to collaborate more, to share their voice in a bigger way, to really make a difference in their purpose and with their message. And I'm just so grateful for you, Terra, for everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm so grateful for you. This has been an amazing conversation. I love the work that you're doing in the world around self-expression and helping women be really visible and own their power. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, y'all. We will see you in the next episode. Mwah. Thank you for being with us and for listening. We really appreciate you. Bye.
Bye.